Good morning, everyone, and welcome to New Athletic Park in Surrey for Vortex Cup, presented by Vancouver Ultimate. We are on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples. My name is Flo, and I will be your commentator for today's event. So, our first game today, we have Voltage versus Nitro, two very strong teams. We got Nitro, who is representing Prime Ultimate in Vancouver, and Voltage, who is representing the Vortex program here in Surrey. So we're already starting off with a zone defense from Voltage, which is looking to contain the Frisbee from moving it up the field. And oh no, we got a drop from Nitro. So Voltage is being picked up by number 18. Looking to see what kind of end zone they're looking to run here. Looks like a nice little vertical stack. Looking for options around the field. Oh, and a hammer right into the stack. Ooh, that is a little bit tough. It would have been nice to see those two spaces around the vertical stack being used a bit more, but that's all right. Nitro gets to move it up. They get a chance to run their offense against this Voltage zone. Keeping that disc moving around the width of the field. Keep swinging, keep swinging. Oh, and another block from Voltage. They're getting it right back into this end zone. Nice swing around there. Oh! Early in the morning, this is just their first warm-up, so it's going to take some time for them to get fully into their rhythm and just passing and just throwing the Frisbee down the field, scoring some points. So it's going to take some time. As someone who's played Frisbee for quite a while, I know how that feels, especially when you're being zoned on so early in the morning. Here we go. Looks like Nitro's going back to their run-and-gun offense, keeping that disc moving to keep Voltage's zone on their toes. Oh, nice shot right down the center. Looking for options around the field. Nice swing around to the right side. And another turnover. That's all right.
Get it back here. Look at James in the middle. No check on James. Ready, up.
Nice find down the field. Oh, nice read by the Nitro player. Now Nitro gets to pick up. Frisbee, they're moving it down the field. Here we go. Everyone's running it down the field to look to score towards the end zone. Nice upline cut there by Sunny. Nice swing around to Nitro, and they score their first point. It took some time to warm up, but eventually they got there. Voltage did get some chances, and I'm expecting them to get more of those chances down the line. So we're just getting started. It's only 1-0. So from what I've seen, typically, teams like to run a person defense first just to test their matchups. But after having a chat and observing both teams today, I've noticed that mostly on Voltage's side, they are a little bit low on their roster, which means fatigue will play a role. So zone defense is a good way to make sure that you're not always chasing someone down the field, because not only do you have to play defense, but every chance you get, you will also have to run just as hard on offense as well. So zone defense is also a good way for making sure that not every player on the field is running super hard, because they will need to save most of that energy as well on offense when they do get the chance to have the Frisbee in their hands. Nitro is about the same. They have a few more players on their sideline, but it doesn't mean that their game changes that much differently either. And Nitro pulls the Frisbee, and we are starting our second point of this game. So let's see how this second point changes from the first. I'm expecting the teams to be a little bit more locked in. All right, it looks like Nitro is running a little bit looser for their zone. So if you've noticed it, the difference between the first point and the second point with the zone defenses that was run, Voltage's zone was a little bit more tighter towards the mark. And Nitro's zone is a little bit more looser, which does invite those shots that goes right through the cup, but it also provides an opportunity for those players in the zone defense to be able to intercept. But keep in mind, if that frisbee is shot really fast, then it could be a little bit tough to get those defensive stops. And Nitro is picking up here. It looks like they have most of it. They are actually set up in a horizontal stack, but it's running the similar concept to how a vertical stack is run. Big huck play there. It is a little bit low, so it's going to be tough for them to catch up, but they do advance the disc pretty much nearly all the way through the field, which means Voltage will have to work to get this frisbee gone and score the point. All right, so here Voltage is running their loose cup. That one cup player who's marking the handler is really on them, making it tough for him to grab that frisbee. As you notice, they didn't gain too many yards in the width space to be able to advance it too effectively, and we have a turnover there, which means that Nitro gets another shot of scoring this one. But this time, though, they are much closer to their end zone, so it's likely that they're going to look to run a vertical stack here. Once again, with that vertical stack, you have two spaces established, open side that's right in front of the handler, and they opt to go for that swing. Looks like they're running a little bit of a handler dominator. Oh, we got cutters activated. Nice upline there, and just for that continuation to score. That timing for those cuts is very effective. Doesn't matter what kind of offense you do. If you can time your cuts really well, you will have those 1 or 2 steps away from your check to be able to grab that frisbee, and they were able to do that very well for the point. And it is currently 2-0 for Nitro, but still, the game is early. Anything can happen.
You're trying to run for the dump. What's happening?
Oh, the schedule? Yeah.
No,
It's
like I
in my
said,
phone, though.
look,
You guys can for it.
I looked at him as tall as you because I said play, right? So I looked at him. This guy runs behind me.
Gosh, I'm a little nerve-wracking.
That's good so far.
Thank you. It's always the first time. And we are starting our third point with Nitro with another pull. Here we go. We have Voltage picking up the frisbee. They're running a little bit of a give and go here. Now, a lot of teams like to run that give and go. Sort of, they also call it dribbling in order to establish that momentum with the frisbee. It also keeps the cutters on their toes to make sure that they are getting their time cuts. Because as someone who's played a lot of frisbee, one of the hardest things to try and establish when playing the game is that rhythm and flow. Because you want to make sure you want to keep that defense moving so that you can pretty much outrun them at every go, but you want to make sure you're doing it in a way that you're timing off of your other teammates as well, and you're not just running for the sake of it, because a really good defender is going to be able to read that from you. And it looks like Nitro they're hugging the end zone. Nice block on the dump pass. Now number 19 is picking up. We'll see what Voltage does here. So once again, looks like Nitro is transitioning over the person. Nice swing right away, taking advantage of that little, not really confusion, but definitely that time to use. Nice work upfield there to number 66. Oh, nice huck right down there to an open number 2. Here we go. Voltage is right on the doorstep, and Voltage scores their first point. Now this game is now 2-1. So as I'm seeing it now, both teams are now starting to establish their rhythm. So this game already looks very different from the first 5 minutes that we saw on the opening poll. That is pretty much the fun part about sports, is that it's not really how you start. It's almost never how you start. It is how you finish. So it's awesome to see that Voltage has kept up the intensity going through, and hopefully they are able to finish really strong, which is going to be amazing. Same with Nitro. Gonna love to see a good game here.
Hey, let's go, Nitro!
And Voltage with their pull. Here we go. Let's see what Nitro is going to do. First swing down the middle to get the disc centered, which allows for more vision to either the left or the right side they have. Looks like Voltage is running their cup once again. So this one, you can see the cup is a little bit tighter, which is going to discourage more of those inside shots, which is forcing the Nitro players to keep that disc moving in short field distance. Looks to the swing, opts for the reset. There we go, and that nice little dump swing combo, swing all the way to the end there. So as you guys notice that whenever Nitro gets those small short distance passes, they look to get that frisbee back right away. Once again, it's part of that establishing that, a big shot down the field, which is blocked by Voltage's player who's on the deep end. So the player on the deep, they have a couple of jobs. One of the main ones is to stop those big shots from happening past the cup and the mids, but also to communicate to the mids whenever there is a player coming into their space, because when you are running a zone defense, you are mostly guarding the space, and if anyone who comes into that space, you will be marking them temporarily. If you are caught between two people, you tend to want to take the player who's closer to your end zone, and you want to let the player who's closer to the handlers to just let them go in or see if they can get the frisbee there, because they do have to get past the cup. And it looks like Nitro is back on their give-go offense here past this zone. They do want to try and keep this Voltage zone moving. Part of it is also getting them tired, but at the same time, you also risk that if you make too many passes and you go too fast, you could also risk a turnover there. So it is a give or take with this kind of zone offense. Voltage picks up.
Come on, Aiden, let's go.
Nice pass down the field there on that undercut. Looking right in front. Looks like they are being forced towards the away side. So forcing in-person defense is one of the most common types of marks you'll see. Mostly because you are encouraging to make one type of throw, which is good for positioning, especially for your teammates who are not marking the frisbee. Oh, nice block there from Voltage.
Hey, work hard here, Aiden. Get it back.
Gets that first pass off, opts to look off the swing, look down the field a little bit. Nice undercut there from Voltage.
Yeah, Jayan, get there. Oh.
All right, they're working it up pretty well with these undercuts. So this is amazing to see. Very nice offense. Nice swing around the cup. When there's no options in that vertical stack, you want to look for that handler swing. Oh, nice swing once again. And that time cut to open players. Nice flat mark though there from Nitro to discourage that from happening, because that's how Voltage was able to score, using those swings, and just a little bit of an overshoot. That's also going to happen a lot because it's the right looks most of the time, well, all the time actually, but depending on how fast or how slow you release that frisbee, it can affect the ability or the rate in which it can be caught, especially if you're running it that close to the end zone. We always try to say that you should be calmer closer to the end zone, but when that point is staring at you right in the face, you really want to have it.
Yeah, guys, stay there. Let Linus.
Here's Nitro scanning the field for options. Opts to go for that swing. Once again, once they have that short distance swing pass, they will look to get it back to establish that rhythm. Nice break shot right through the cup there. Oh, and it's just turnover. Hard to tell from here. All right, looks like Voltage picks up. Once again, they are on the doorstep of the end zone. So looks like they're going to run their vertical stack. Number 22 is picking up. Looks like that first cut is that upfield. It gets looked off, so he clears, and he gets it right. Oh, no. Nice read from Nitro. All right, here we go. Now Nitro is looking for that fast transition down the field. Big huck there. Oh, nice grab from number 1 for that momentum pass, and Nitro scores that point. So that clear cut was actually a really good cut because even though you had to clear that space that you tried to cut into, it is still considered a cut, which still allows you to be open. Even I myself have gotten caught with clearing of not looking at the person with the frisbee when they were yelling at me to look back at them, even though I was clearing because I was still wide open. Although that one was a good read from the Nitro player to get that off on defense. And Nitro is gearing up for another pull, and here we go. Let's see what Voltage makes of this next point. Nice pull right into the end zone there, giving Nitro players time to run in there and set up their defense. Gotta love to see those pulls that make it to the end zone without it going out of bounds. Otherwise, they are allowed to advance it up towards that brick mark, which is those set of round cones just past the end zone there. You're looking at about 10 yards past the end zone there. But good thing Nitro was able to avoid that with a good pull towards the middle of the end zone. And once again, this zone is really hard marking those handlers there to prevent those options because as you've noticed when Voltage runs their zone, they have that, Nitro gets that dump option or that swing option, and Nitro's very loose cup is looking to prevent those options right away. But looks like Voltage is able to get those with a couple of tough shots. Looking down the field, and a big huck down to the end zone there. Looks like it's just going to sway out of bounds. But regardless, those were some really good looks, just working it up the field there. But at least it's now at the end zone, which means they can use their zone to establish that. Looks like Voltage is running their zone once again. But Nitro is able to find those holes to get those shots off right away, and a big huck off of those passes in rhythm. And caught by the Nitro player. When you get those passes off really fast before the cup can get there in the zone, they are able to get some pretty nice shots off there. So Nitro was able to get a couple of those short passes into a big momentum huck and to go for the score. So that was an interesting adjustment I saw from Nitro. The first few points of the game, they were running a loose cup in order to sort of gauge out the field, see how Voltage is comfortable making those passes when they are putting a little bit more pressure on them. It actually got to the point where they started almost running a person defense just on those dump and swim options while the other zone players were still in their respective positions. So while Voltage was still able to get some of those passes off, there was some pressure there, which is awesome to see. It's always good to see these players work hard to get those passes off to score those points. Or pay it off with a really big defensive stop, which is also really good for rhythm and transition on offense, which is what they were able to do. And pull from Nitro. Voltage picks up, looks to make, takes that first pass away, but it's still there if he wants it. So again, sort of going back to these off the pull plays, you're looking to establish that momentum by getting those short passes off. So Nitro was able to counter that by taking away that first pass right away. As you notice, Voltage's approach has become a little bit more deliberate and a little slower compared to Nitro's faster run and gun pace of offense. Nice swing there. Nice find there to two open Voltage players who both managed to get the frisbee, which is awesome. Oh, nice shot. Oh. And looks like a call there. I believe it may have been a foul. It is a foul call there. I couldn't tell if it was just a regular contact foul or if it was a strip. But regardless, it is back to thrower. Gets that pass off right away, right when the game picks up again. Signaling his players to go deep, wants to find that big shot. Still takes it there. Number 17 is there waiting. Oh, nice. Voltage scores. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with when you see someone there who's wide open and tall, hit him with a high shot. Big high pass there from Voltage to get that point. As someone who is a little bit shorter when I play, it's always fun to see when I can pass to the tallest player on the field if they're on my team. That is always a fun thing to see. And a pull from Voltage to start this next point off. Looks like they're setting up their zone offense once again. The first things I like to look for if it's going to be a zone defense before they even get there is to see if one of those players sort of stands back and just waits as opposed to marking a person right away. And a turnover there from Nitro, which means Voltage picks up and gets a chance to score this point. You see number 19 there. He is signaling his hands up there to start that vertical stack, which is a good indicator to get the players in line in order to establish those two spaces on either side of the stack and make their place based on there. Nice undercut there from Voltage. Another undercut there from 18. Looks like there was a pick call. I wondered why he was so open there. That makes sense. So because this pick was committed by the player who got the frisbee is thrown back to the thrower, and the mark gets a chance to catch up, which means 18 can still make a cut for that disc if they want to, but opts to clear. Good call there. Gets it back right away with that swing. Amazing movement so far I've seen from number 18. Amazing movement and throws. That one was a turnover, but doesn't mean that they haven't made good shots I've seen already in this game so far. Setting up their zone once again there. So something I'm keeping an eye on for this particular zone are the mids. Something I always tell my players when we run a zone is whenever the disc is in the air, you want to make sure you're scanning around the field to make sure that you're close to a player, because if that first pass is made to an open player and there's no chance for you to block it, that's fine. It's just a matter of can you stop the pass that happens after, because that's where the momentum really picks up, and that's the one that you want to stop. Looks like that was an out of bounds. He did land on his feet with 1 foot outside of the field. If both feet land on the ground and one of them is out, it is considered out. It's the first point of contact you make after you catch the frisbee. If he had 1 foot in first and then it was out, then it's still in. Nice shot there to the left side. Oh, and a collision. It's tough to see those happen when you're going up for that frisbee in the sky. Part of the battle is also being able to outposition your opponent. And then the other part is being able to time your jump. You don't necessarily have to be the highest jumper to catch those, but you just got to time those jumps really well. Nice mark there on number 7 to prevent that pass. Opts to reset it back. Nice find there. Looks like Voltage is just running a person defense here. Nice cut across the field there. Opts to run it up line. Number 7 running it fast down the field. That one's a little bit blady. I think if that one was just a little bit flatter on that throw, could have stayed up there long enough. The edge of the frisbee is something that us coaches always emphasize when we talk about throwing. If that edge is facing the ground, chances are it's going to hit the ground a little bit faster than if the disc was a bit flat, but you do risk the chance of it being blocked by the person that's marking the runner. Always a give or take. Nice high pass there to number 17. Here we go. They're off to the races. Oh, that's the problem with sometimes when you're looking to pass that frisbee very quickly. It is the right pass to make because the person was very open. But sometimes there's nothing wrong with just faking them off, making sure you get a good quality pass off. Even if that means a couple of the defenders get to come back, that is totally okay. I'd always make sure that the passes you get off are good quality. And Nitro gets it right back there with a series of upline cuts. So upline cuts are one of the staple cuts that you're going to see in this game. And the idea behind it is the line in upline is referring to that lane that's directly in front of the thrower. So if you imagine a line right in front of the thrower and someone cuts to that line in a diagonal, almost check mark-like shape, that is considered an upline cut. And a pull from Nitro for this next point. Voltage picks up. Looks like, nope, Nitro is still running their zone. I just saw number 42 marking that reset, which is part of their loose cup strategy. Couple passes off from Voltage. Oh, nice read there from Nitro for that block. Notice there, number 16 calling out who the players there are marking. He's marked that other handler there. Looks like we got a couple of coaches that are on the field. It's always awesome to see them get in on the action, play with their players. It's a fun little summer tournament here, which is great. Oh, nice pass there from Nitro to the end zone. Nice read to that left side for the goal. there's a lot of field space in that end zone, and when you throw a huck, which is a very very long throw, you can opt to aim it right down the middle of the field, directly in front of your line, or kind of swerve it a little bit to the opposite side of the field. And I like to do that third option to get on the opposite side of the field because the defender can only mark, they can only cover so much space who they're marking. So as a thrower, I like to get it behind both the mark and my receiver to the point that favors my receiver. So it already gives them that positional advantage for them to go for the score, regardless on what disadvantages or other factors that might be present on this field. Well, I guess wind would be the only factor that could affect me as a thrower. But as long as I get it in a way where my receiver gets a positional advantage before they even have to move around the field in order to establish it, then I've done most of my job as a hooker. Nitro is doing a very good job on putting pressure on those reset handlers. So the reset handlers are the ones that are typically standing not directly behind the person with the frisbee, but they're definitely close enough that the purpose of making that pass to them is to reset the stall count, because you can't hold the frisbee forever when it's in your hands. The players will be counting stalls from stall 1 to stall 10, and that's how much time you have to get it out of your hands. And typically the reset option is usually seen as the safest option, but with the way Nitro's playing, it is still a somewhat safe option unless they're like hard marking them face to face, which means they'll need to make a couple of moves in order to get those passes off. But passes is still there, needed. Nice series of small give goes there from Voltage to start this point off. Keep those Nitro players on their toes. We're establishing movement here. Nice pass there to number 18. Opts to look off the swing, throws it back right away. Totally nothing wrong with that. Nice swing once again, keeping it down, keeping that disc moving and that stall count resetting. Nice inside shot there, right down the middle. Swings back right away. Opts to look for that. Oh, opts to not go for that upline cut right away. Good cutoff there by the Nitro player to flat mark. So instead of forcing it one side to the other, sometimes the most conventional way of playing defense as person without knowing any of those little tidbits and tricks is just to mark them straight up. Discourage them from making easy shots directly down the field. Swings it back right away. Oh, nice shot down there. Oh, that's unfortunate, but it's right on that end zone there. We got disc on field there. When the disc is on the field, no matter what part of the game it is, acknowledge it, stop the play, get the disc back to the side that it needs to. And we got a Nitro player off on the races there. Wide open with no one there to mark. Voltage players have to really run back, but Nitro has already seen that and taken advantage of it for the score. With the score at 7-2, we are going into a half, and I'm going to take this time to do one of our sponsor plugs for VC Ultimate. VC Ultimate has been producing the world's best ultimate apparel since 1998 locally in Canada. Find high quality gear at vcultimate.com. As someone who's made custom jerseys for the high schools I've coached for, I definitely used VC Ultimate. The quality on their shirts has been amazing. it's really good that I don't trap the heat too much, and we're able to get there and play some frisbee together. Now, halftime is a little bit interesting for me because depending on what level you're playing at, you can approach halftime differently. You notice a couple of players are using this time to continue warming up their throws. As someone who's played Ultimate Frisbee for a while, no matter how long you've been playing the game for, no matter what level you're at, the one thing you're always going to be working on is throwing. You gotta take a custom for the different factors that can affect your throws, such as the wind, the amount. Well, wind's pretty much the biggest option, but also your throwing form is a big factor. Even though you've been throwing around for quite a while, sometimes you need time to sort of rebuild that muscle memory, especially if you don't play Ultimate Frisbee continuously. As someone who's taken every 2 weeks, I'll stop playing Frisbee. When I come back, it's almost as if I've forgotten how to throw again. And of course, majority of the players are talking about different strategy approaches. Some of them are just getting water and just resting. So there's many different approaches you can take to halftime. And starting this second half off with Nitro. This is the first time I think I've seen Nitro pull a frisbee that's landed out of bounds. So this means that Voltage is able to center the frisbee right to the middle, which is a positional advantage for the offense because they can see they are able to make passes on both left and right side of the field without the worry of being too close to the sideline for an out of bounds possibly. Looks like Nitro is. I've seen slight tweaks and variants with the way Nitro is running their zone defense, which is forcing Voltage to sort of look for different types of passes down the field. We've seen one where well, it looks like that we have that cup there that's marking the handler this time, but the first time they looked for this, they were a little bit looser on that mark. Good turnover forced there by Nitro.
Start shallow, boys. AJ, you gotta
With it, they're approaching it a little bit slower this time. It's quite interesting making that change of pace there on the offense. Sometimes you'll opt to be a bit more cautious and be relaxed with your play. Sometimes you'll opt to play a little bit faster pace to get that momentum going. Turnover there from Nitro, which means Voltage is picking up. And right down the middle of the field, which means both sides are available, depending on how that cut is made. Nice throw there from Voltage for the score. Throws it right over both the players for Voltage to have that positional advantage for the score there. It's a good thing I just talked about that a little bit earlier, where even though one player might be shorter than the defender, as long as that frisbee is aimed right to the point where the receiver has the advantage on positioning, then it's going to be tough for the defender to be able to get there and get that block, unless they were incredibly fast. Which, don't get me wrong, looking at some of these juniors run, definitely did not run this fast when I was in high school. And a pull here from Voltage to start this next point off. Nitro's currently up 7-3, but we still have quite a bit of time remaining, so anything can happen. Good movement here by Nitro, once again relying on those short passes to gain momentum. If there's no option up the field, they will opt to dump and swing. Dump obviously is the throw, to throw it behind you. Similar to a reset. Reset pass and dump pass, both are the same in terms of what direction they're throwing at, and the swing is throwing it across the field as opposed to down the field to gain yards. So you do temporarily lose yards, but you can gain them back relatively quickly, especially on a zone offense. And Nitro is taking full advantage of that. Once again, there's that dump, there's that first swing, second swing right down the field. This time finds the player up the field to gain those yards. They are now on the doorstep on the end zone. And an unfortunate turnover there from Nitro, which gives Voltage a chance to get some offense going. Looks like Nitro has melted right away into person defense. You've noticed there that the other handler is, nice D there from Nitro to get it back right away. You always gotta love rewarding the defender once they get that good block off, especially when they're right at the end zone. It's always a good morale booster. Something interesting here while I was observing both teams is that not only was Voltage's roster a little bit shorter than what they had hoped, but they are also fighting with injuries, which is a common theme for Ultimate Frisbee players throughout the year. Some players get injured because of something that happens out of their control. Sometimes an accident happens on the field and takes them out of commission for a good few weeks, which does affect the chemistry of the players of the team in that they are changing up their lineups. As a coach, as someone who's had to adjust the lineups to have to account for injuries or playtime restrictions, it's definitely something to always think about. But it makes sense as to why a couple of coaches are playing for Voltage to sort of help bolster up those numbers, to keep those players fresh, and even though Nitro is up, we're still playing a pretty good game here. And I've seen some pretty good offense and defensive stops from both sides. But of course, it's still very early in the day, which means that a lot of teams, not just the one that's happening here, but also the one happening across the field from us, and 2 and 3 fields down, they are also going through that same phase of warming up their throws in the first couple of points to get into their offensive flow and groove into as they get more closer into the day. But of course, today is going to be really hot, so once again, there's a lot of give and take here for sports, for anything in particular. And Voltage picks up here, gets those first 2 passes off right away before the vertical stack even gets their offense set. Big huck there from Voltage. Oh, sky battle there. Always love to see 2 people going up there and test their limits as to how high they can jump, how well they can time those jumps with the frisbee. Doesn't matter how much taller or shorter you are. As someone who tends to be on the shorter end of these sky battles, I am expected to get skied myself, but in those small chances that I do manage to get the sky off of someone taller than me, it is a big morale booster because the other way is expected to happen the whole time. Here we go. We got Nitro running it down the field. Number 1 with a run and a catch to. Is that not in? Nope. Opts to tap it back and pass it off there. It's very sneaky. While Voltage was calling that calling that a walk-in, we got another Nitro player running right from behind just to get that point. Sometimes when well, not necessarily a call that stops the play, but a walk-in is just easy resolution. If you catch the frisbee as you walk in, it's not considered a point. Your first point of contact has to be in the end zone. If you catch it just outside of the end zone and then run in, that is considered a run-in or a walk-in, depending on how it's done. With Nitro up 9-3 on Voltage, they have shown no signs of changing the game, which is always awesome to see. You play this game to your maximum energy and efficiency all the way until the very end. It's also a good practice to have, especially because it's not the last game of the day. You have more games coming up after this, so you want to make sure you maintain that consistency of making sure you're always playing at your, well, if not your maximum, then near maximum, to the point where you are doing good things and good contributions for your team. Pull goes out of bounds, so Voltage is able to center it to the field again. Looks like they're just trying to figure out where it landed out. But of course, if the disc is landed out at any point past the brick, then they take it to that brick mark. Looks like Nitro is running their zone once again, putting that pressure on those handlers. Nice fill on that swing. The moment that the handler on that side decided to clear, then another handler was able to come in and fill that space, which effectively gives the handler 2 options, but a turnover there gives Nitro the offense. Nice find there on the undercut. So an undercut is just a player running directly to the person with the frisbee instead of running towards the end zone for one of those longer shots. They can opt to come under for a shorter, more safer pass. But depending on how tight the defender could be, it could be a little bit of a race. Nice read there by number 18. We've seen a couple of those where,
Shot! Shot!
I think what might have happened there was as the Voltage player was going for the block, he extended out his hand to get a touch on that frisbee and got right into the lane of that Nitro player who was running upline. We're just looking to see how this gets resolved, and looks like it just goes on. That turnover will still stand. Of course, there was some contact there, but it is a self-officiated game, so if the Nitro player felt that they could have made a play on that frisbee, then they could have opted to call for that foul. It was pretty close, especially when you're going at super fast speeds like that. And a turnover there from Voltage, which puts Nitro right at the doorstep of the end zone for this point. You got that handler situated about 45 degrees around there to lure out that defender. And a pass. Oh, that's an unfortunate there on that tip. Did have a second chance on it, but he was really hugging that end zone, or the sideline there, to the point where I think it was just going to go out of bounds if they caught it. And another out of bounds call there on that pass. That's a tough jump there, jumping backwards at a little bit of an angle towards the sideline. Really hugging it. We like to hug that sideline a lot. Good open swing there, finishing that swing off. Oh, kind of a little bit of an overshot there, which gives Voltage yet another chance. It looks like, well, I can't really say that they've put on the brakes here a little bit, but definitely their pacing has slowed down just a little bit, probably conserving for their next game. And a turnover there from Voltage. We are on that doorstep of the end zone there for Nitro. They have their other handler once again at 45 degrees. The reason why we do it like this is that Voltage player number 28 is poaching off, which means they're not fully marking the handler, but they are giving that space for another cut to be made, which is exactly what Nitro did to be able to go for that score. And a pull from Nitro. Here we go. Gets it right to the end zone this time. Right there in the middle there. Gets Voltage a couple. It looks like they're initiating that dribbling sequence. So the term dribbling, it is a basketball term used to move the basketball down the field. But in Frisbee, dribbling is referring to those short sequences of passes. Usually it's after a pull is made, but if any two players are open, they can look to gain those distances, those short distances, and keeping that disc moving in a dribbling move here for Ultimate Frisbee. I wouldn't say it's an official term that's in the rule book, but players like to use it. I personally like to use it myself as well. Looking for those wide swings, getting that disc moving on the width side of the field. Good block there by Voltage. Looks like it was still just towed in the line there into a sea of people right near that sideline, which was a little bit tough to see. And Nitro, pretty textbook to be honest when you look for those swing passes to gain those yards on the width sides of the field. which gives those open spaces a lot of room for any player to take, as long as their timing and their positioning just out out position and out time their opponents. Did that a couple of times there, got the score. Especially when you're running an offense like that vertical stack, swinging is a really good way of making sure you're honing in on one of those two sides. Sometimes when you're on the center of the field, having that luxury of looking at both sides can be tough for your decision making, because you have those both sides, you have to see how the players are going to cut. Whereas if you are situated just on one side, then the players know that they have to make a cut just on the lane right in front of you and make sure those cuts are hard and timed quite well. And Voltage with a shot at offense here. Oh, nice throw right in between the cups there. Look to gain, they did manage to gain a couple yards off of those two passes, which is amazing. Wide open player there for Voltage. Really keeping the Nitro defense on their toes here. That sequence of dump and swing. Good anticipation there by that Nitro player, number 11, that's marking the center of the field to stop that swing from happening. It's a very textbook way of playing offense against a zone defense. So as defense, I always say that zone is a game of positioning, being able to position yourselves not just to cut off those lanes, but to cut off the second or even third passes if needed, because you're trying to cut off that disc movement there. Zero is looking to get it back right away. Looks like they're adopting a little bit of that really fast-paced, short distance yard gain there that Nitro was doing in the beginning. Oh, just missed that block there by Nitro to put Voltage there the advantage. Oh, and it's just an inch off of the frisbee there for that catch. And now Nitro gets it back here. Number 11 goes right for that undercut. Oh, just mistimed on that jump, which gives you, once again, broadcasting to the end zone. He wants to tell them what he wants. Oh, just blocked off there by Nitro. It's funny because I'm broadcasting, but whenever I have to point at a direction that I want a player to go, I am essentially broadcasting, because I'm not just telling my receiver where I want them, I'm also telling their defenders where I want them. So it gives defenders that time to adjust their positioning as well. A rule of thumb for me is if I have to broadcast a move, then it's too late to make that move. But at least if I can bait them to do it, I can look somewhere else. So it's a little bit of a bait tactic, but good block there from Voltage. Good pressure defense to force that turnover. And now Voltage takes it up there to the sideline. When a disc is turned over right on that sideline there. Oh my goodness. Little floaty right on that sideline. Never came in, but the player who caught it stayed in the field, so it is still in. It's a very interesting thing about how a frisbee moves. The moment it hits the ground, it's a turnover. But most projectiles that are used in sports, they are allowed. A lot of them are allowed to hit the ground. But with the frisbee, you're in the air most of the time. Well, the frisbee's in the air. You're in the air if you're jumping. Good upline sequence there right away. Good fake cut. Good fake right after that throw there. A lot of the time, someone would be timing that cut for that continuation right after that upline, but if no one is there, you still want to make sure you have that momentum for that continuation. Doesn't have it, opts to swing, and then gets it right on that end zone there for Voltage to score. It's funny, I've never heard this before for adults, but with Junior Ultimate, a lot of players like to pull, whereas in adults, they usually delegate the pulling responsibilities to the person who has that tendency to want to throw it really far. But in Junior Ultimate, it is seen as one of the big staple moves. So the more players in Junior Ultimate that are able to huck, hucking and pulling, essentially, well, for hucking, it's a long throw down the field when the game is on, but a pull is that long throw that happens down the field to start the play. Once again, we got a couple of the coaches calling lines from the field. They've been on for a few points now for this game, but that makes sense considering that the Voltage sideline is looking a little beat up, a little bit tired. It's been a pretty long season for all of these teams. Of course, coaches are allowed to play if it's talked between the two sides so that there are no surprises, no one is being thrown off guard, and that they're able to prepare for just about everything. And as a coach who has also done that, where I've also played with the juniors, as long as it's talked about between both sides, then it is fair game. It's kind of the beauty with Ultimate Frisbee being a self-officiated game. Everything is talked about between players and coaches. Even if there has to be some tweak in the rules because of some limitations, or if coaches are allowed to play. But of course, they can opt to say no if they don't want to, just to get the players more reps with the Frisbee. And Nitro looks like they've slowed down, not necessarily slowed down their game, but they're definitely a more cautious, more deliberate with their movements and tactics. Gets off right away there on that zone. Oh, a close block there by Voltage. Waves it off, continues right away, keeps that disc moving, keeps that Voltage cup moving right there. They've loosened up a little bit, then once they've noticed that they're swinging a lot, they are slowly gaining yards, very slowly gaining yards with a lot of passes, which is good to see. Gets it back there right away. Oh, and a anticipation block there from Voltage. Voltage picks it up right away, goes right for that huck. Oh, we have a sea of bodies going right under there for Voltage. Oh, and a block from Nitro. Touch there by number 16. Nitro picks up. First pass there, looks to get it back there on that give-go. Gets it right back. We have Voltage player there standing right in front to make sure that that next pass is not so easy to make and is discouraged. So they've gotten off there on the far side of the field. A lot of zigzag movement here. When they get it to one side and they can't continue it right down, they'll look to swing it again. Swing it right back to field, and a hammer across the field. I love seeing hammers. They are so much fun. I'm always going to be a fan of hammers and scoobers. I know there's a few people that I've seen who discourage hammers and scoobers, but me, never. I will always be a big fan of them. Voltage is picking up. Looks like they're setting up a little bit there of their vertical stack. But this time the vertical stack is closer to our side, which means that lane directly in front of the thrower is more open than it would be if the vertical stack was set up right in the center. Upline cut there right away after a couple of fakes. Nice undercut there from Voltage. Get it back. They are slowly gaining more yards. Oh, good block there from Nitro, just running it through for that defensive block. And Nitro is working it down the field. We're seeing signs of fatigue for sure. It's been a pretty long game, and it's only going to get hotter from here. So I'd imagine the way both teams are going to approach their next set of games are going to be a little bit different to account for the heat, and of course making sure that they don't get super exhausted by the end of this tournament. But of course, you can't control how fast players run down that field. And this puts Nitro on 12-4, which means it'll be game point for them. If they score this next point, then they win this first game. And it's only going to be the first game. We have quite a few games coming up today, so plenty of ultimate action to see. I've seen some pretty good things here on both teams, even after halftime, which is awesome. They don't give up. They keep that disc moving. Turnovers have happened, but in all honesty, it doesn't matter what level of Frisbee you play. Turnovers are going to happen. Perhaps with more experience, typically means you have a tendency of turning it over less, but I can tell you that's not always true. Turnovers will always happen. And there's that horn to signal the last point. So here we go. Right on time for Nitro to start this. Oh, I thought that was going to sway into the field, but it is just going to land. Oh, and it hits a bar. Always love going for those crossbar challenges. But regardless, Voltage is still able to center it to the middle. Now, from my angle, it was hard to tell where it came out, but it looks like they were able to get a good distance down the field there. Looks like they opt to... No, it is still a little bit of a zone there. They have the... Essentially, the cup has now gone into person offense, but it looks like Voltage was able to find it to get into that dribbling sequence for gaining those small yards.
Look at Aaron, look at Aaron. Go on, look at Rico, look at Rico.
So dribbling isn't just done right at the start of that point. It can be done at any point where there's two players that are wide open and they have opportunities to gain those small yards. And they go right into the end zone for the score. What a way to end this point. Yeah, and this has been a very exciting first game to what there's many games to come. So, and this has been Vortex Cup presented by Vancouver Ultimate. Find Ultimate programs for all ages and skill levels across Metro Vancouver at VUL.ca. And Vancouver Ultimate would like to thank their preferred apparel provider, VC Ultimate, as well as London Pub, Eastman Brewing, Friction Gloves, and the team that makes the broadcast happen. This has been an amazing game from both sides, and I've had a lot of fun making the play-by-play and just looking through the analysis of both teams, and looking forward to see more of these games later in the day. See you then.